Good afternoon, everyone. Literary criticism and theory. We are going on with the explanation portions. We see, just see, we have finished off. We finished module one with Plato and Aristotle. Then we moved to Indian aesthetics, the second module itself. Now, the third module you can see with four major essays on the part of some familiar figures. Most of them, their names are familiar for you. After first and second module, you can see third module with the four essays. And some of the essays or the figures are familiar for you. William Wordsworth, as a poet, you know him. Ferdinand de Saussure is maybe a new name for you. As a theorist, he's known as a theorist, but not as a writer of some creative poems or something. So he may be a new figure for you. But T.S. Eliot, definitely you know him as a dramatist, as a poet. All of you, please be on time. Then Elaine Showalter was also is not a creative. She's not known for creative work, so you may not be familiar with her. As part of history of English literature paper, we expect these figures to be introduced to you already before you are getting them introduced in literary criticism and theory paper. So some of them are not only creative writers but also theorists, or they are well versed in the area of literary criticism as well. Some of them are purely theorists. They are known for the area of theory itself. So two of them are familiar for you, two of them are not. That's all. But why I have taken the syllabus once again, the reason is you should know instead of third module, we are directly jumping to fourth module, and then we will come back to the third one. The reason I would like to tell you in the very beginning, reason is in literary criticism and theory papers, wherever it may be, now it is in UG level, it's prescribed. Sometimes it can be in any other higher levels also, that can be there. And you come across many essays in the area in which these essays function as, or inside the essay you come across a lot of points, lot of critical concepts, ideas, sometimes as the opinion of the essays and all. But most often you can locate a particular theory, a theory which is contemporary, which is very contemporary, very recent, which is going on with all its relevance as the base of the same. If you see preface to lyrical ballads, you can take the background as the movement or theory or school called Romanticism. If you take shows as a nature of the linguistic sign, you can draw connection, or the base is located in the movement called structuralism. If you take Eliot's tradition and the individual talent, you can draw many schools together. Sometimes you can draw connection with the mm, in the case of Eliot, it's modernism. Most often he's related with the modernism, but many other schools as well you can draw connection when you discuss this essay. Mainly, after all, he's a modernist, then you can see postmodernist elements as well. You just have to see how I'm connecting back from this module to the other. Then Elaine Showalter with her essay Towards a Feminist Poetics, is definitely or obviously it connects back to feminism. So now you can see, now you come back to the contents of module 4. Some of the theories, some of the schools I have just connected with the essays prescribed. So that is the way we are trying to build a base in the case of almost all the major schools of criticism as the first part of our study. Then we will go back to the tough part, or in one way or other, it is a development, it's an elaboration. If you know something about romanticism, then it's easy that you learn a specific essay which is connected with the theory. If you know something about structuralism, then it's good that it's easy that you can draw connection when we discuss nature of the linguistic sign. Otherwise, it's tough. Then, what about modernism? What is modernism? Now, actually, tradition and individual talent is not. If you locate, it's not about completely about modernist school, but we have some other theories as well. When we discuss, we will get idea like historicism. All those ideas we may have to take. Then, towards the feminist poetics, before dealing with the essay, it's good that we discuss something on feminism as a whole. So, for that, I jump directly from second module to the fourth instead of the third. There's a logic behind it. It's not about, there is no lack of continuity for that reason. I promise you. It's unlike in the case of history of English literature paper from 16th century. If teacher jumps to 18th century, you miss a lot. So we don't do it usually because it's a chronology. It matters only after knowing the changes in the English soil during 17th century. You have to, or it's good that you go to the details for 18th century. Details of 18th century. This is not like that. For learning something about or to delve deep into these essays, the prescribed essays, it's good that we know the movements in general, and these are given in the very order. The order of their introduction. Let us see. Now to that. Okay, so module 4, and again the whole module as a whole, you can see the terms prescribed are given under certain major classification like figure or speech. The 7 terms that your friends discussed or presented are under or those come under figures of speech category. Simile, metaphor. In a poem, now you can identify a simile. When a metaphor is there in a writing, you can definitely identify that. Synecdoche, metonymy, these are connected. Symbol, how we use symbols and how important it is in a suggestive language. We know how suppression, expression, impression, all these terms are important. We get it from Indian aesthetics, right? Yes. So irony, paradox, all these can be used as literary devices. That is one part. It's very simple because we already use it, we identify it in forms and all. But the second part is the nucleus of this paper as well. We most often don't expect essays from this, but only you can claim that I learned literary criticism and theory only if you have a basic idea, at least a better understanding of this part called movements. Second part, movements. Under that, you have all these different movements, schools of criticism, and we have to discuss it not in a very detailed manner, but at least a few details about each criticism, each school we have to build an idea. Classicism. Should I discuss? I won't have to. I don't have to. I don't have to discuss classicism. Anything and everything regarding classicism you have already been given with Plato, Aristotle. Many other figures are there, but we know what it is, what their stance towards criticism is. Sorry, literary works as a whole is. In one word, we can say they are not that flexible towards art. Art in general, if you talk about art expression in general from 21st century idea or standpoint perspective, it's about freedom of expression. But we know whether classicism or the people belong to classical age, the critics of the classic time period, whether they were promoting art and artists in that way. No, they were very demanding. They were comparatively very demanding. Right. So here, classicism as a literary term, the definition is already given in the first module. Then, so classicism as a term, we know classicism, the idea of classicism can be taken back with these classic figures from Greek and Roman Latin tradition. Greek, mainly Greek critics. Then we have other Roman critics as well. But we have we at the UG level. You have to know about mainly about the classic figures who are listed out in your syllabus. At least the name you can think like Longinus, Horace, Quintilian. Their contributions are also there. Just know the names. At postgraduate levels and all, you may have introduction to these people as well. But just with the introduction to Aristotle and Plato, or Plato and Aristotle, you know what their stance towards writings in general. It's not very flexible. But when you compare from one to the other, as time passes, time goes, we can see a flexibility coming in their stance as well. Aristotle is not that problematic or don't have that problematic, doesn't have that problematic a view as Plato. But Plato has reasons. I told you the kind of people, the kind of social situation, people lacking morality in general, that led him to be so strict a disciplinarian. So that reflected in his view towards art as well. Okay. So classicism, we know, and classic works are those that can transcend the test of time, still read, evaluated, appreciated, irrespective of their cultural, geographical, temporal backgrounds. And we know how these people build canons. Shakespeare's canon. Why do you have reading Shakespeare still in universities? And why don't you have such papers? Many writers are there. Far better or far brilliant works, contributions on the part of different other writers. But all of them do not form canons. Some of them find their positions in the canon of a literary tradition. Okay, so that is what is happening almost always. That is classicism. With the classicism, you have such figures, and so next term we have to discuss that is Neo-Classicism. Let me take this text. So this is the text that is prepared by me, which is there in Kindle as well. Okay. Classicism, admiration of qualities of formal balance, proportion, decorum, and restraint. Normally, classicism as a term you have to check out. Admiration of qualities of formal balance. That's what is demanded by Plato. Proportion, decorum, restraint. Just wait. Here. Wait. Yes. Come back. So, proportion and decorum. Demanding of decorum is one of the major features of classicism. And restraint. Many restraints they impose upon the creative genius. And major works of ancient Greek and Roman literature. So, classicism, which are the works that are sticking to the demands of classic tradition or classicist tradition, mainly that are Greek and Roman literature. Writers must be governed by rules. That's what they say. Models and conventions than wayward inspiration. That means, yeah, you have some ideas in mind. You want to express that, whichever theme it may be. If those themes and expressions are going to affect the morality and thinking and perspectives of people, you don't worry. You don't care. In that way, they call it wayward inspiration and they do not want to promote that. They never wanted to promote it. School of Classicism doesn't want to promote it. So unity of purpose and design should be there in any literary, creative, artistic work. and they wanted clarity in expression, objectivity over passion. So this is the definition that was given to you then also. Now we are moving to the second term, Neo-Classicism. From there, here we start something new. And please read out those the list of terms that we are going to discuss. Your classmates have already typed down and made the notes. This short notes are short notes. It's I told you it's of my own, but the other one, the note as a whole, those are typed and made everything perfect, intact by your own friends. Then classicism, Neo-Classicism, Romanticism, humanism, realism, and magic realism together. Those are connected, that's why. Naturalism, symbolism, Russian formalism, Marxist criticism, absurd literature, modernism, postmodernism, structuralism, post-structuralism, and deconstruction together. They have something, structuralism, then post-structuralism, and deconstruction together. Post-colonialism, feminism, psychoanalytic criticism. These are the terms. We are going to deal with the content as we learn it for some paragraph question, or the contents shall be arranged in that way, as we don't expect essay questions from this part for this paper. This paper, that means literary criticism and theory paper, we never had essay questions in this part, from this part, because the credit is arranged in that way. Just by looking at the content, we understand that, okay, we can expect such questions from this or that. And that is the only thing, it's not guaranteed, but from experience, we can say the contents are arranged as such. Details like Neoclassicism. So we are going to that term now. Neoclassicism. Look at the term neo. Neo. Neo means what? Neo means new, something new. Classicism is there, but it's something new. Neo-Classicism. The 140 years after restoration of 1660. 1660. This is how history of English literature becomes very important. 140 years after restoration. And what happens? What is this 1660 incident? Let me just take that file for you. Okay, so 140 years after restoration. Here, what you have to keep in mind, the importance should go to this term actually, restoration. I think it should be in capital letter. Restoration. Actually, what happens in 17th century England? After Queen Elizabeth's time, just have a very brief sketch of that time period. In Queen Elizabeth's time, she was a queen who promoted art in general, promoted the drama, theatre going. She gave incentives to major playwrights of the time. Most of them, she made use to write praise, and for her own position, she used the artists. But in general, it was a flourishing. Queen Elizabeth's during reigning time was a flourishing time of literature. You can see the elements of many artists, many dramatists coming to the forefront. But that is not the scene here. We are going to talk about restoration of 1660, which is Elizabeth's time. It's from 1558 to 1603. Let me type down. Should not be confused. Elizabeth's time. Just see Elizabeth's time. It's 1558 to 1603. Elizabeth. Okay. Then after her time, it's James First and Charles First. That is Stuart dynasty. Elizabeth belongs to Tudor dynasty. Then you have two other kings, James First and Charles First. But there, after their time, there is Puritan rule in England. So James First time period I will type down for you, 1603 to 1625. Charles First, it's from 1625 to 4 1649. 1649. And what happens after this? We're talking about a time. Yeah, you just have a look at this. 1660 restoration, but we have to see the kings and queens and the total situation in general of England during that time. So here it's with James first. This is Charles first. This is Elizabeth. Elizabeth first. Elizabeth. Sorry. And then comes Cromwell's rule. Very important to be noted down. And only after that we have this restoration. See, Cromwell's reign is between 1658 to, sorry, yes, well, it's 49, 49, sorry, for 1649 to 1658. Yes, here it's Cromwell. Puritan rule in England. Well, Cromwell had been, in history, according to historical records, he had been a very strict disciplinarian, religious figure who opposed this person, Charles First. When you take the historical details, you know, Charles First was a wayward king comparatively, obsessed with the material and the pompous way of living, with a lack of discipline throughout. So Cromwell wanted to stop this kind of a wayward way of living, and he even closed down theatres, everything in that way. So during this time of Cromwell or Puritan rule, England had a decline in art, and art had a kind of decline with the closing down of theatres and everything. And after Cromwell's rule, after his death, you can see in 1658 he was a successful ruler. Actually, Cromwell was very successful in changing the face of England, the soil of England. But after 1658 to 6 and again 6 to 1660, you can see Cromwell's son Richard Cromwell taking up the position, but not in a successful way. He was not successful. Son of Cromwell, not being successful, so that in 1660 England sees the restoration of monarchy, and that's what you see, restoration, in our reference. This is the way you have to learn literature. When you have the term restoration, if you casually mention something and go without explaining that, what this restoration, somewhere you might have come across the term, you might have forgotten, you don't even know what happened in that case. So 140 years after restoration of monarchy means what? Restoration of art. Art is restored, because during Cromwell's time or strict Puritan time, England saw a decline of art with the closing down of theatre and all, because these religious figures like Cromwell and all felt that people going to theatre, there the portrayal of such scenes like immoral scenes and all, their morality must be affected, so we should not promote. So during Puritan rule, England didn't see the flourishing of art in any way. And with the restoration of monarchy, actually it was with the King Charles II. Charles II, yeah, from 1660 to 1685, very long a rule, 1685, you have Charles II, another very wayward king and son of Charles I and Henry Maria. Those details you may leave, but Charles II, it's a restoration. That is what you mean by restoration of monarchy. Restoration means restoration of monarchy. Puritan rule, it's not monarchy. Monarchy means ruled by king. And here the king rule, rule of the king is coming back to England. So what is happening here with the Neo-Classicism and England? And once this is back, you can see a lot of changes in art, approach towards art is everything. Let us see what happens. It's a reaction against Renaissance view. Renaissance is even before this. If you take those three terms starting with the R, Renaissance, Reformation, Restoration. I will type down the order. Renaissance, Reformation, another term, Restoration. We don't have the discussion of Reformation here. That is with another figures, a kind of social reformation and all in between. But Renaissance is very important when you discuss it in the context of discussing Neo-Classicism. So a lot of elements of classicism you can again draw in Neo-Classicism as well. We will see how. But Renaissance spirit and all, I am sure you are not really unfamiliar with. Renaissance. Renaissance is the view that human being, their capability, we can be really confident about their personality, their skills. Human beings can achieve anything. It's about a quest for knowledge. You might have come across Christopher Marlowe's portrayals like Dr. Faustus. A Renaissance character, Renaissance humanity. That stand is portrayed through such characters. So it's even before this time. And here Neo-Classicism is coming back with a reaction against that view. Again, you are drawing restraints upon humanity. Classicism strictly did it. Hope you remember. And now you can see why it is Neo-Classicism. It's not going to give freedom again, but you are bringing back the restraints with the Neo-Classicism. Because before that, you had a time period of freedom with the Renaissance. Renaissance, where human capabilities were taken for granted. Their skills were taken for granted. Because that Renaissance view says man as enthusiastic, optimistic, with infinite potential. Does classicism permit such a view, promote such a view? Never. So that Neoclassicism too wants to get a restraint upon such views like man is enthusiastic, they are optimistic, they can be optimistic with a lot of potential. No, this is about restriction. Restraints. Again, bringing back restraints after a gap. Because already the gap is because of this renaissance in between. In classic time period, we have this school, and at the same time, because European continents are connected in one way or other, not just in Greece, not just in Rome. The thoughts and the kind of approach perspective, the effect can be there in other soils as well, other countries as well. So when if there is an idea of classicism limiting human potential, everything there in European continent, some part of European continent, you have to assume the same to be there in English soil as well. If not during the same time period, it can be even later. So this changes from time to time. That's all. Okay, so Renaissance view. Man as enthusiastic, optimistic, and with infinite potential. But Neoclassicism wants to come with a kind of change again. So Neoclassicism says that man is imperfect. They are not that perfect. They are not infinite. They are not endowed with infinite potential or anything. Be limited. Your expression, your freedom of expression, nothing can be taken for granted or cannot be allowed without any restraints. That's why it's Neoclassicism. Neoclassicism. Okay. And emphasis is on order, Reason, restraint, our old friend is coming back. Reason, restraint, common sense, conservation. You're conserving things, religious, political, economic, philosophical. At every point, you want to conserve your ideas, thoughts. You want to conserve your own potentials. Everything is to be limited. Hmm? So, this is what is happening. The strong traditionalism. There itself you have strong traditionalism. They strictly promote traditionalism. So there itself you know how freedom of expression can be limited or affected. The very first point they talk about strong traditionalism, promoting strong traditionalism. Then second point is about striving for correction. Straw means strive, straw. Strive, straw, scriven. So V3 form. Let me just wait. Let me check out that V3 form. So straw V2. Straw for correction means you're striving for something. Means you wish for something. Correction. Everything should be correct. Stylistic decorum. So it should not be given in this way. So stylistic decorum. You have a lot of ideas, but you cannot express everything. That may affect the decorum of the community, of the society. So you have to take care of that. That's what you mean by stylistic decorum. Your style should be, in one way or other, made perfect for fitting to the decorum. Then, third point of Neoclassicism is human beings should be a primary subject matter of literature. That is fine. Maybe the primary subject matter of literature, and poetry should be both instructive and pleasure giving, and art for humanity's sake. There is another movement, arts for art's sake, even later. But here, art is for humanity's sake. So you can represent human beings. You can take human beings as the subject matter, main subject matter for your representation. No problem. But that should get you instruction along with the pleasure. It should not be for mere pleasure. It cannot be afforded according to Neoclassicism. So with the classicism. Why it is termed Neoclassicism is just because it comes after a gap of freedom, expression, everything. Renaissance spirit is very different. It is allowing freedom for individuals like anything. There is no such strict disciplinarianism on the grounds of religion or anything. People were challenging scriptures and all. Writers were challenging the religious scriptures and all. So this is a coming back or going back to traditionalism. And now you can see art for humanity's sake means art should be something for the benefit of human understanding, human decorum, everything. Correction, common sense, reason, order. Nothing can be compromised. Okay. And common experiences, thoughts, feelings, tastes of this humanity in general can be expressed so that no one is going to affect. That is the main problem of the world or society cannot appreciate differences. If it is common experience, it's fine. Everything is getting married at an age. That's fine. Then, if a person challenges that system, the person becomes a black sheep, either of the family or of the society. That's it. So, common experiences, thoughts, feelings, tastes. If everyone sticks to that, rulers are fine, or such people who doesn't want a change. Sorry, people who do not want a change have peace of mind. They're fine. They don't have to fight with the different people who promote differences. But here that's the relevance of common experiences. Looking at common experiences, thoughts, feelings, tastes. If everything is common and consistent, you don't have all these revolutions in the world. Why all these revolutions? Fight. All those occur in the world because people want to be different. That is their right. But the majority or the power sector doesn't allow it. Then you have revolutions or a rebellion. That's the main point. So here, neoclassicism doesn't want to promote something different, but common experiences, thoughts, feelings, all these are taken together. And human beings as limited agents and only with limited goals. So they want to assert again and again that human beings are limited agents with the limited goals only. They are with the very limited goals only. So they attacked human. It attacked the human pride. Actually, it's an attack on human pride because even before this you have Renaissance humanism, Renaissance spirit with a lot of freedom of expression, a lot of art flourishing in general. But you're going back to classic uh, way of thinking. So attacking on human pride here, this is, and they promote the need to, or they say that it's important need to submit to cosmic order, the strict disciplinarianism in general, cosmic order. They try to say that this is the only right way of doing. We never wanted to promote something different or freedom or anything. So limiting the freedom, actually limits upon freedom is imposed like anything during neoclassic movement as well, neoclassic time period as well, neoclassicism. Obviously, you might have been introduced with this term in connection with the literature, neoclassic time, neoclassic writings. The writings of the time, the poets, the writers of the time, their writings, if you check, then you can understand how these points are really relevant. You can see a kind of correction or a kind of traditionalism, subject matter, the selection of subject matter and the presentation of facts. Everything was done in a very restrained and reasonable way, very conservative, very narrow. And that is why, in general, classicism and neoclassicism, in effect, they are the same. By the term neoclassicism comes here, it is after a gap and it's something new. And again, we never can expect after achieving the freedom, we cannot expect of going back. But here it happened. And the writings also had much impact on behalf of the ideas of neoclassicism during that time. Okay, so that's what you mean by neoclassicism. And you can see the note and you can see how it looks like. The typing general, it's these are given as given in sentences as usual. I have taken the points only, main points, and use it for explanation. That's all.